Fam, what's up? How's everybody doing today? Happy Monday. Can I get a roll tide inside the comment box? I appreciate you guys being here. What a week we got. We have Thanksgiving coming up, and then we got the Iron Bowl on the back end on Saturday, 2:30 p.m. CBS. Do not sleep on the Auburn Tigers. And I know you guys aren't, and I know that Coach Saban's message is going to be strong going into this week as the Alabama Crimson Tide, now 10-1, 7-0 in SEC play. Get ready for the Auburn Tigers, a team that lost to my New Mexico State Aggies by a score of 31-10. But don't buy into the rat poison. This is a dangerous Auburn team. And you're like, what? Okay, I'm going to tell you why during the show, why you can't sleep on the Auburn Tigers. And I think a lot has to do with the head coach, Hugh Freeze, who, by the way, has beaten Saban not once, but twice. Elijah, dude, call into the show, man. We put the call in line at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so real quickly, I wanted to get this graphic up. When I was putting together the graphics for today, check this out. Okay, maybe we just have Vegas just completely seed the teams. So these are the odds to win the college football title. Okay, as of today, November 20th, the call in line at the bottom of the screen, 205-850-1994. So Vegas, who doesn't miss on much, right? Their whole job is to make money. So today, the odds. What's up, Gavin? I see you inside the comment box, man. Michigan plus 225, okay? Or Georgia plus 275, Ohio State plus 500, Alabama and Oregon the same at plus 700. Theoretically, you could say those are the top teams right now, 1 through 4. Okay, they have Michigan number 1, Georgia number 2, Ohio State number 3. Who would be really mad at those rankings? I really wouldn't be. And then you have Alabama and Oregon. You know, those are the two teams that we do have resumes for, and we can compare those side by side today on the show. And then you also have Washington, as you see there, at plus 1,200. I think Vegas is feeling that Oregon catching a lot of momentum. I want to tell you why. When you look to Oregon's resume, it is standing out. They've only beaten one top 25 team this season, but everything else is flying high for the Oregon Ducks and Dan Lanning. Bo Nix, he increased his Heisman odds from 150 last week to 110 this week. They're the number 1 scoring offense in the country. I could go on and on about Oregon, but they've only beaten one top 25 team. Now, they will have another opportunity this week as they take on Oregon State. Okay, you see that Texas has dropped now to plus 1,400. And I think Vegas is starting to see what we're seeing and what we've been calling out is this is not the same Texas team that Alabama played back in week 2. And that's why I put inside the title. Do you feel that this Alabama team would beat the current Texas team? Because I think people are so fixated on week 2, and I get it. Head-to-head is a major component of how you rank these teams. But I think the rankings need to be based off today. Like, this is what Vegas is doing. Vegas is telling you today, these are the teams that have the highest percentage to win the national title game. These are the best odds right here, straight up. Tom Milrow, I love it. Good avatar. And you're right. NMSU is better than Auburn in a lot of sports. Basketball, man. A couple years ago, they took Auburn into like 3 or 4 overtimes, and one of the best coach, like Bruce Pearl, had a team. I think Auburn even won did they win the title that year? NMSU took them in 3 overtimes. Don't sleep on my Aggies. Okay, and then as you can see right here, stay with me, okay? Stay with me. Every single week, the committee says that they go into the selection process with a clean slate, okay? Completely clean sheet of piece of paper. And they write down the teams, and they go through 1 through whatever. Vegas is saying that Florida State, as of today, is at plus 2,500. That means that they're basically eliminated in 2 reasons why, okay? Number 1, Jordan Travis went out. Now, thoughts or prayers to a complete baller. One of the best quarterbacks in college football, period. What he was doing this year, phenomenal. Nothing against the kid. I really hope that, things turn around for him because that was terrible. With that said, Jordan Travis didn't get injured up until, the later part of that first quarter. and they were trailing North Alabama 13-0. I live in the state of Alabama. I didn't even know I thought it was Northern Alabama. I had to be corrected as North Alabama. North Alabama was up 13-0 on Florida State. And I'm asking you this, and I'm serious, and I would love to ask the committee this. Can you imagine if Alabama was trailing Chattanooga 13-0? This would be all people were talking about. It wouldn't matter that Alabama came back and won 58-13 behind a backup quarterback. None of that would matter. All that people would be talking about is the fact that Alabama would be losing to North Alabama or Chattanooga, whatever, 13-0. It's like people completely forget that. I get it. The backup quarterback did a good job. They got a ton of momentum, whatever, and they ended up winning the game. Let's look at Florida State's resume. I got a couple callers on. Hang tight. Want to kind of cruise through some of these resumes as we look to the playoffs. I know this might be a little bit of rat poison because I know the Iron Bowl is coming up or whatever, but we're talking college football this morning on this fine Monday. Today we got Coach Saban at 12 p.m. We got Jalen Milroe at the podium following him at 12:20, and then you also got Malachi Moore, one of the team's great leaders who's had a phenomenal season. So when you look at the Florida State resume right now, this is how things shake out for the Seminoles, okay? 11-game win streak on the season, 11-0, of course, overall. And look, the job that Mike Norvell has done at Florida State has been great because the last time that Florida State and Alabama played, I went and I visited with my good friends at War Chant, who have a phenomenal Florida State site, and I drove to Tallahassee in preparation for Alabama and Florida State to play at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Alabama completely dismantled Florida State in that game, and then what happened to Florida State following that, they had 2 coaching changes. Their program almost left FBS. I mean, it was a complete train wreck. So to see Florida State now relevant and talking about the Seminoles has been great. But when you zoom into the resume and you kind of look under the hood, it is a very good offense. I mean, number 7 scoring offense overall, 40 points per game. Jordan Travis completely balling out, but they are living off that week 1 win against LSU 1,000,000%. That's the only thing that they have to show on their schedule other than their record, right? Look, what else stands out? Number 24 defense, number 17 offense. Okay, the ACC, everybody knows the ACC isn't one of the top conferences, at least in my opinion. And I guess that's hypothetical. And someone pointed out yesterday that in the last 3 major games, the ACC is like, what are they, 3-1 against the SEC? But the major factor is on the lower right of your screen. Jordan Travis out for the season. And right underneath that, I think it tells you that plus 2,500 odds to win the college football title. That means that Florida State eliminated from the playoff contention. Now, what we're going to see from Florida State and Florida this weekend at the Swamp is going to be interesting because of the fact that Florida's quarterback also got hurt. So you have 2 backup quarterbacks going head-to-head this week at the Swamp. All right, I haven't even checked the odds. Somebody inside the comment box, can you please post what the odds are for Florida State and Florida inside the comment box? I appreciate you guys. Okay, let's look at Oregon's resume. Okay, so Oregon, red hot. And I mean, this team, same thing. They're living off 1 win this season. Dan Lanning has done a great job. Don't let that green burn your eyes. It's kind of burning mine right now. But these are their colors. They're on a 5-game win streak, 10-1 on the season, 7-1 in Pac-12 play. And the committee loves the Pac-12. They lost to number 5 Washington, which doesn't seem to hurt them at all. Number 2 scoring offense behind LSU, 46.5. Number 2 total offense behind Washington, who they'll play here in a couple weeks. And then number 16 defense, points allowed per game, 16.7. Number 10 scoring defense. This is what you want. If the committee wants style points, 1,000,000%. This green is killing me. It's literally burning my retinas. But the fact of the matter is the committee loves style points, and they love these 2 bottom facts right here. Okay. Bo Nix minus 110 to win the Heisman. He's basically he is the odds on favorite. He's going to walk away with the Heisman. That's what those odds are telling us right now. Like Penix, I think is second. He's got like plus 500 and then plus 650 to win the college football title. Right? When we go back to our graphic, those are the same odds that Alabama has as of today. Committee loves this team. If they're able to beat Washington, which, I mean, look, if you watch Washington against Oregon State, yeah, man, the 199, I appreciate it, man. Bro, what you think about 41-21? What does that mean? Spell it out for me, man. I appreciate you, Gavin. And then when we look to Washington's resume, and I'll get to my calls in just a second. You look at the Huskies, okay? Let's zoom in on the Huskies. Overall, 11-game win streak, 8-0 in Pac-12 play. Beat number 6 Oregon, beat number 22 Utah, beat number 11 Oregon State. So they have 3 wins over top 25 teams. Now, I don't know if Utah is still going to be inside the top 25 after their loss, but these are the rankings off the last college football rankings. Points per game, 39.3. The quarterback's an absolute baller. 94 overall defense. That screams to me dangerous when you're ranking a team like this within that top 5. The number 1 passing offense. So they counter that with the big play from their quarterback. Number 52 strength of schedule on Power Guru, and then Penix has been fantastic. His passing yards, 3,600 on the season, 30 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, plus 1,200 to win the title game. So I think that what Vegas is telling us at the bottom right of your screen is this is a good team. This isn't a great team. All right, with that said, I appreciate you guys listening to kind of my opening monologue, and appreciate you guys joining me this morning. Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube. We'll get to my calls in just one more second. But Bama, 9-game winning streak, 7-0 SEC play, beat number 13 Ole Miss, beat number 15 LSU, beat number 18 Tennessee, lost to Texas, points per game, 36 points allowed per game, 17. Second half points, this is where they get their style points. 203 to 80. They have the 23rd ranked defense, and last week they had the number 2 overall strength of schedule on Power Guru. Since they added in Chattanooga, it dropped down to number 20. Milroe's recent play has been fantastic, but not according to AJ in New York. They have a dominant defense and plus 600 to win the college football title. So this team's on fire. The coach from Chattanooga says one of the hottest teams in all of the country. How could you disagree with him? This team, Georgia, playing at a very high level, throw in Oregon as well, playing at a good level. So we go into the Iron Bowl. Alabama, I think, is a 10-point favorite, something like that. Don't buy into the rat poison. Big week coming up for the Crimson Tide. Mike in Austin, man, let's do it. Mike, good morning, man. Thanks for joining me on the show.
Thank you, Kyle. Good morning. I went to the Bama game this past Saturday, but I was such a madhouse, and I was pressed for time. I didn't have time to look you up, man. So I was wanting to see you in person and say hi, but I never got around to doing that. So I guess I'll call in and still try to be a caller for you, But hey, that Auburn loss, man. Really, in my opinion, there's just no excuse for that. I mean, that's a bad loss for Auburn. That shows where the state of their program is. They messed up firing Gus Malzahn, and just like Texas A&M and their blind quest to keep up with Alabama, they're going to do whatever it takes. But that was a horrible, horrible loss for Auburn, and there's just no excuse for it. But with that being said, Bama, it is the Iron Bowl coming up, and anything can happen during the Iron Bowl. So Bama definitely still needs to be ready and focused on that game so they can go into the championship game undefeated,
Mm-hmm. What do you think about, I know we're talking Iron Bowl today, and I want to get your take on that because, rightfully so, it's Thanksgiving, and it's the time to beat, the cross-state rival, whatever. But when you look at these odds that I have up here, Mike, and it's the national championship winner odds, okay? And I'm kind of bypassing Auburn right now, but I think this was so interesting to me. This shows you Michigan, Georgia, Ohio State, and Alabama. These are the teams that Vegas likes along with Oregon, and it seems to me that they've kind of penciled out Washington, Texas, and Florida State. What's your assessment of those odds? I don't know if you can see the graphic, but if you can, what's your take on that, and what is that telling us? And I know your feelings about Michigan, and I know everything around, Harbaugh, but from these statistics, these stats, these odds right here, what is your takeaway in reference to what it means for these 3 teams, Washington, Texas, and Florida State, who look to be, honestly, kicked out right now?
It's just anybody's guess. I mean, that's I guess ESPN, whoever put that up, that's their guess. But right now, it's anybody's guess on what could play out, what could happen. I mean, just like this morning, I heard on ESPN, one of the commentators said, well, my top 4 teams or whatever, Alabama's number 2. But then they said, well, but I don't put Alabama in the top 4. Well, how can they say Alabama's one of the 4 best teams in the country, but they won't put them in the top 4? I mean, so that's an example of just being anybody's guess on what's going to play out. But here's my opinion overall. Michigan and Ohio State are complete posers. That is, and the entire Big Ten. They're a bunch of weak teams. That's my assessment overall. Like, for instance, the Big Ten West, the winner of that's already Iowa, and Iowa's 9-2, and other than the second best team in the Big Ten West or whatever, is a 6-5 team, a 6-5 team. I mean, they're just a league full of mediocre teams, in my point. But the only thing about the Michigan Ohio State, yeah, Michigan's cheaters, no doubt about that. The only thing about that is, if whoever the loser is, they need to completely fall out, not just fall one notch down, not just lose a game and just go from 2 to being number 3. And whoever loses that game needs to completely fall out of the picture, from my point, because that's their one game schedule right there. So if they lose it, they need to fall out. But the championship game in the Big Ten is going to be versus Iowa. Well, anybody with a decent team can beat Iowa. Iowa's, they're decent, but they're very, very beatable. But right now, I think the All-State playoff predictor has Alabama like a 32% or about somewhere around a 30% chance to get in. Yeah. Well, that's accurate. I mean, that's right, because even first of all, beating Georgia is going to be 50-50 beating Georgia. And even if they do beat Georgia, let's say they even beat Georgia by 1 point or so, there's still a chance they may not get in. I mean, partially because of Bama fatigue, but also because of these other conference champions that are winning out, and what I perceive to be Big Ten, privilege with Ohio State and Michigan. But there's still a lot of football left to be played. Like I mentioned, Oregon and Washington's going to play again, probably in the championship game. Texas is going to play at Texas Tech this week, or they play Texas Tech in Austin this weekend. But then they're going to play their championship game, and that's still yet to be determined who they're going to play. Florida State's going to play at Florida. They're going to play at Florida, which is, that they could lose that game. Florida played their best game, a couple of good bounces or whatever. Florida State could lose that game. And then they have the championship game they're going to play. And I don't think that's determined who's going to be. They're going to be playing in the ACC championship game. But right now, Kyle, bottom line is, it's all over the place. It's all over the place because people are going to take losses. Georgia may take a loss. Another factor as well. What if Georgia loses to Bama by 1 point? Yeah. Are they going to drop Georgia all the way out? I mean, Georgia's obviously the best in college football. Ain't lost in 3 years.
Inside the comment box, Curtis is kind of asking the same thing. So he's saying, TCU lost a championship game last year and didn't even fall to third place and still made the playoffs. I think that's a great point, and I pose that to everybody inside the comment box. I've been talking about this fact is like, what if Georgia goes undefeated, which they're going to? They got Georgia Tech, and they lose to Alabama. Let's just hypothetically say, right? So you have Alabama sitting at, 12-1 at that point, and then you have Georgia with a 1 loss as well. Are they going to leave Georgia out, or are they going to take Georgia in over Alabama? And then Gavin, I appreciate you, man. It's good linking up with you. I'm glad you're doing well. Good to see you inside the comment box. He's like, sup, bro? Playoff percentage chances went down from 41 to 21. Look, right now, kind of what Mike is saying, I agree with it. Things are all over the place, and we really haven't had that cataclysmic weekend of college football yet. We keep waiting for it to happen, but good teams continue to win down the stretch. You have big games taking place this week with Oregon taking on Oregon State against a red-hot Oregon team. You have the big one taking place at the Big House between Michigan and Oregon State or Ohio State, and I think that those games are going to have implications. Same thing with Alabama and Auburn, and I get a lot of people feeling that just because Auburn lost to New Mexico State that game has lost, some wind or whatever. I still think from Alabama's perspective, you have to go heavy on Auburn, and that's going to be challenging challenging to do regardless of what's going on. I don't care that they lost to New Mexico State. New Mexico State has now won 9 games on the season. Jerry Kill has done a great job with the Aggies this year. A blueprint to beat Auburn, probably, but Hugh Freeze has a blueprint to beat Nick Saban. He's done it 2 times. It's scary. So I think Coach Saban's message today will be strong. I think it will be remain on this particular game. Because this is a perfect opportunity to start looking to the SEC title game. This is a perfect opportunity to fall into the rat poison, what we're talking about, the playoffs. I mean, you go down there, can you imagine how embarrassing it would be if Alabama goes down to Auburn and loses to Auburn? Right? It would be unthinkable if Alabama loses to Auburn, a team that just lost to New Mexico State. It would be absolutely terrible. So, I think it's kind of all over the place. Hold on, Mike. We got a couple super chats coming in on the line with Mike from okay. Austin, and then we got a couple other callers coming in. Kenneth is saying with the $20 super chat, thank you very much, Kenneth. I really appreciate it. The top 4 teams are Alabama, Georgia, LSU, and Ole Miss. If Alabama beat Georgia, Bama is in. If not, we will have 2 SEC teams in the playoffs. If Bama beats a number 1 team, they automatically jump in. And that's another thing, too. I mean, you get to this point, and Georgia is – look, let me ask everyone inside the comment box. The hottest team in college football, 2 teams. Georgia is clearly the hottest team, and Alabama's right behind them, and probably throw in Oregon. Those teams are playing at a very high level, okay? Oregon just doesn't have the strength of schedule. They've only beaten 1 top 25 team, and they have a high potent offense. Georgia has 3 top 25 wins. So does Alabama. The way that they've played in the last, several weeks has been phenomenal. Now, I agree. If Alabama gets to that point, that's why it's so important for Georgia to stay at the number 1 spot, because if Alabama is to beat Georgia for that top spot in the SEC title game where everybody will be watching, it's basically the championship game. You could quite possibly have 2 SEC teams in the title game. And then Kiltack with the 20 spot. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, for the Nick Saban, Pat McAfee Camera Fund. Yeah, we need to Coach Saban. So every Thursday, Coach Saban has been linking up with Pat McAfee, and his camera is, I think they're just using like the Dell version of the camera, like the desktop camera. So it's simple. I would love to go to Coach Saban's office, fix it up, do a little Logitech camera, get you all set up. But I appreciate the super chats. Mike, anything else when you look to this, this Iron Bowl and why it's so important for Alabama to avoid the rat poison and overlooking Auburn and Hugh Freeze going into this SEC title game?
Yeah, Bama will stay focused. Well, I think the fans know what the Iron Bowl is, of course, and what could play out there. Basically anything. I don't think Nick Saban and the team's going to overlook Auburn, because they're our biggest cross-state rival. It's in Auburn. It's the craziest things in college football have played out there every other year, basically. So I do not think Alabama's going to overlook Auburn. I do think they'll be ready for that game. But one thing real quick, Kyle, what I think the committee needs to do, which I'm not part of the committee, of course, but I think what they need to do is, since there's a log jam at the top, 8 or 9 teams vying for 4th places, since there's a log jam at the top, what they need to do is, if you reset the season, if you take, no matter where you're at right now, 8 to 1, from 1 to 8,
yeah.
If you take a loss, you're out. If you take a loss, you're out.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. And I hate to say that even pertains to Georgia. If Alabama beats them by 1 point, Georgia's out. If Ohio State if Ohio State beats Michigan or vice versa by 1 point, they're out. If Oregon and Washington's probably going to play again in the Pac-12 game, and whoever loses 1 point, they're out. So what they got to do is reset the season right now, and Texas, whoever, if you take a loss, no matter where you're at, no matter how good you play, if you take a loss, we got to clear this log jam. 1 loss, no matter who you are, where you are, you're out from this point. That's kind of what I think they need to do just to clear up this log jam. But all the more reason why we need the 12-team playoff starting next year. I mean, the 12-team playoff, they needed to do that big time. There's still going to be argument on who's number 14 14, 15, 12, 13, 11, all that kind of stuff. But still, there's more argument why we did. But like I say, Bama will not overlook Auburn, man. Bama's going to remember that pick six for the next 200 years. They're not going to overlook Auburn, dude.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't see that happen. So I see Nick Saban having them ready, having them focused, ready to play. And from this point, this team seems to be on a mission. But like I say, this morning the ESPN guy said, well, Alabama's playing the best football in the country, but they're not on my top four. Well, what sense does that make right there?
Yeah.
What sense does that make? I mean, but all right, Kyle, thanks for letting me call in, buddy. Good job on your show, man, and I'll probably talk to you later in the week.
All right, man. Appreciate you, Mike. Thank you very much. Appreciate the call from Austin. Mike from Austin. We got a 256-443-9112. Get you guys in today right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Today, for everybody on Monday, you got Coach Saban at the podium. You got Jalen Milroe. You got Malachi Moore. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you're notified every single time we upload a video. We appreciate you guys being here during Iron Bowl week. And honestly, I want you guys to have a fantastic week with your family. You know, this is Thanksgiving week. Great week to spend time with your loved ones, have some great food, and watch some good football tonight. You got the Chiefs taking on the Eagles, and then you got the Coaches Show as well at 7 p.m. So thank you very much for joining us right here on Bama Football on YouTube and making the channel what it is today. All right, with that said, we go back to the phone lines at 256. Let's get it going. Hey, thank you very much for being patient. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who I'm on the line with and where are you calling in from?
My name's Elijah Edge, and I'm from Coleman, Alabama. How you doing today?
Elijah, what's up, man? I saw you inside the comment box, man. I'm glad you were able to get in today. Thanks for being patient, man. Welcome to the show.
I just wanted to talk about a topic nobody's really talking about that much. Is everybody's holding the Texas loss over our head, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But they're not talking about Texas losing to Oklahoma, and they're talking about every week how we're going in with a clean slate.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Oklahoma's schedule after Texas, they've lost 2 games since Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And when Texas beat Bama, they jumped 4. I can't remember the rank Texas was when they beat us, but they jumped up 4 spots to 3 or 4, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Now imagine what they would have done to Bama if we would have lost to Oklahoma and to Oklahoma, who's ranked 13 now, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
If they're starting off with a clean slate every week, shouldn't that loss to Oklahoma already have Texas behind us?
Yeah, and I think you bring up a great point, Elijah, and this is something that I've been harping on as well, is like the last time, so every single time, so it'll be Tuesday night following the rankings, the committee chair, Bo Corrington, gets on a transcript, and he basically explains kind of their thought process and stuff. And for the last 2 weeks, he said that they go into every single week with a clean slate. And I was thinking, like, clean slate, really? Well, the last 2 times that Texas has played Kansas State and TCU, they won those games by a field goal, right? Each of those games, 6 points. And then, they have a 10-point win against Iowa State. But you look at the way that they have been trending, and look, Vegas tells you, Vegas isn't scared to tell you the actual facts. Look at the bottom right. What does it say? 2,500 to win the college football title. Alabama's at plus 600 or plus 650, wherever you want to go. So that odd tells you the truth about the 2 teams and how they are performing at this very point in time. Now, don't we want the teams ranked off this very point in time? Isn't that what the whole playoff is about, to get the very 4 best teams? But I think the committee has such a hard time every single year. Is it the most deserving, or is it the top best 4 teams?
Well, I think at this point that Bama's honestly one of the most deserving in top 4 teams, because they've proved that they can play the ball, and like you said before, they want show points, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know Chattanooga's not a big football team, but we showed our weapons that game.
Mm-hmm.
We had more diversity, and we showed more of the weapons that we have on our roster, and that's what they want. But yet they still keep wanting to overlook us for whatever reason.
And look, and a lot of people say like Bama fatigue or whatever, but it's like, and I get that, because that does exist, but the ratings are so high when Alabama is in, the playoff picture, right? Because there's half of the country wants them to win and half the country wants them to lose. And it's the same thing with Coach Saban. Like, Coach Saban is the college football commissioner, but besides all that, like, and it wouldn't matter. Like, you need the top 4 teams in the playoffs. And that's why I eliminated Florida State. Right after Jordan Travis got hurt, they're out. Texas, the way that they've been playing, they're out. I think that Oregon right now is the better team than Washington. So Washington, and that day will come. Those two teams will play. So those two teams are still there. Georgia, Alabama playing at a very high level. Michigan and Ohio State. Michigan has only beat one top 25 team this year. Just one. And that was Penn State. And everybody knows that Penn State is a pretender. Even when they were up in the top 10, nobody was really taking James Franklin serious. They haven't. When is the last big game that he's won? He hasn't. Ryan Day in Ohio State, that is a good football team. They have a Heisman contender in Marvin Harrison Jr., but they're living off 2 wins. Penn State, another James Franklin coach team, and Notre Dame, a team that's lost 3 games. Right? So those are their marquee wins this season. So when you look to Alabama's schedule, and they have 3 top 25 wins. The way that they are trending right now, the quarterback that they have, the most dangerous player in all of college football, that when he is unleashed, there's nobody in this country that can stop him. I mean, it's a travesty that they continue to sit at 8 boxed out by a team that is trending downward.
The one thing I was thinking about as well, I don't want to try to stay on here too long, is the strength of schedule. That is a big thing. And my thing with Oregon and Bo Nix, they really haven't proved themselves against some top teams. I mean, they've lost to Washington, and I've never had anything against Oregon. But my thing with that is besides the time Bo Nix beat Bama, when it comes to SEC teams, he hasn't lived up to what he needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
You remember what happened between Georgia and Oregon last year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's and the committee knows it too, and that's another reason they don't want SEC teams in, because most of these SEC teams can smack up on these Pac-12 teams. I'm just being honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. And Elijah, before you bounce out, I think it's just important that we just admit this. I mean, look, for whatever reason, the Pac-12, this is the most we've talked about the Pac-12 in the last 10 years. Seriously. I mean, the whole thing about the conference ending and all that stuff before the season, and then with Coach Prime and what he did with Colorado, and kind of all the attention, and even game day went to Colorado in Colorado State. This is what was going on this year, right? Washington, Oregon. I mean, that's exactly how much attention they had, and really, we've seen historically that those teams just haven't been able to win the ultimate big game. Now, I will say this about Bo Nix, because he is playing through the roof. The guy, I think, has 18 touchdowns in the last 3 games, or something crazy like this. His pretty much walked away with the Heisman. And the one thing that he does have as well is, and that's why I'm telling you guys about this Iron Bowl, is Bo Nix played the game of his life. It was like somebody else was playing through his body when he played Alabama, when he beat Alabama head to head. Think about that. That's what he has. And Bo Nix I think he's played the most games in college football this entire, out of anybody this year. He has 60 or 7, something crazy like that. So anyways, Elijah, I'm glad you got through, man. I'm going to get to my next caller. Save the call-in number. Call in anytime. You got a seat at the table right here on Bama Football on YouTube.
All right, thank you.
All right, man. Take it easy, Elijah. I'm glad you got in. All right, 443 and a 912 coming up next on Bama Football on YouTube. All right, Jarvis, thank you so much, man. You're my bookie, man. I got you. You're always hooking it up with the odds, and I appreciate you. So, Bama, there's some more rat poison for you. Bama right now, 14.5-point favorite over Auburn. It's crazy. Let's run through the college football storylines real quick before we get to my next caller. So, in case you were asleep this weekend, here's what happened this past weekend. Georgia defeated Tennessee. Carson Beck threw for 298. Kid is absolutely on fire. You got Ohio State, who beat Michigan State. Kyle McCord, 335 yards. Harrison with 3 scores. 1 was rushing. Michigan 31, Maryland 24. Jim Harbaugh continues to be in some place other than the sidelines. And the game was tight. Talia Tagovailoa had an opportunity late in that game. Florida State 58, North Alabama 13, in a game where Jordan Travis was injured later in the first quarter. Keynote of that game is that Florida State actually trailed 13-0 from the jump in that game. Washington defeated Oregon State 22-20, Penix 3 scores, 18-game winning streak. That is impressive. Oregon 49, Arizona State 13. Bo Nix 404 yards, 6 touchdowns. They have they actually have the number 2 offense in college football. I just looked that up today. This graphic was built yesterday behind Washington. And then Texas beats Iowa State 26-16. It was 6-3 at the halftime break. That's why we continue to talk about teams where they are trending up or down. And then Alabama, as you know, defeated Chattanooga 66-10. Style points earned. Milroe has 3 touchdowns. The score was 38-7 at the halftime break. And Alabama enters the Iron Bowl, winning 9 consecutive games. With that said, we go to the lines. 4-4-3. Let's get it going. Hey, thanks for being patient. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who I'm on the line with, and where are you going? Where are you calling in from?
Yo, this is Xander out of the Maryland, PA area.
Hey, what's up,
How's it
Xander?
going?
I appreciate you, man. Good to hear from you on this fine Monday, man. Take it away.
Yeah, man. This whole football math thing going on is just pure insanity. I mean, I'm listening to Joe Klatt this morning right before you went live, and he's out here saying the Pac-12 is the deepest, best conference right now in the nation.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just absolute insanity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, pure insanity.
Mm-hmm.
Though, we start off the year, Utah beats Florida, and so it's like, oh, okay, look how good the Pac-12 is this year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at Colorado. Colorado's doing all these things. And then we forget, like, that's their football math, right? They beat an SEC team, so they must be good. And then the year goes on.
Mm-hmm.
They've played nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
And the teams that they supposedly beat that are good have continued to lose. So Florida, as we know, not a good team.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it's not a good team.
Mm-hmm.
No one's arguing it's a good team, but yet at the beginning of the year, somehow they were the undefeated team. That it's pure insanity.
Mm-hmm.
And then Utah is Washington's best win, right? Utah just lost to Arizona.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, they got blown out by Arizona. It wasn't like it was a slight loss. They got blown out.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona almost lost to Colorado, who has 4 wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Like,
I feel you on that.
This is the worst football match. You got Joe Klatt running around talking about how good the Pac-12 is on every channel they'll put him on. He's selling Washington, Oregon like it's the matchup of the century. Like, if we don't watch this, we miss the championship game. No. We know where the championship game is being played. It's being played in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. It's going to be played at the SEC championship, and everybody knows it. Mm-hmm. They've completely lost it. Mm-hmm. This is the worst committee. I come over here, every week talking about this committee, and it continues to baffle me that they don't understand football. It's insane. They want style points, but the style points only matter if you're the Pac-12. The USC sucks. They're acting like USC's still good. USC sucks. Mm-hmm. Washington sucks. Washington can't play anybody on defense. As soon as they play an SEC team, they're going to get just destroyed. If they have to play Georgia or Alabama, the only way they score is Alabama does the same thing Alabama always does and goes, oh, we're winning this game. I guess we'll let them score.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what we did in Kentucky. We were up 21-0. We were like, I guess we should let them score, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's craziness. I don't know. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I think when this committee, and we've talked about it, they love style points. That's why I was saying going into this game against Chattanooga, I mean, in kind of the platform that I have, is that it's so important for Alabama to put the pedal down against Chattanooga. And Coach Saban doesn't do that against teams, but I think they get it. They certainly get it. 1,000,000% is that Oregon, who beat Portland State by a score of 81-7. The committee loves that. They relish that. They love the weak schedules. And I think, honestly, what the committee has done and what they've showed us over the last couple of weeks is that the style points and a weak schedule of strength is higher than head-to-head. And I think it's also higher than a strength of schedule, right? So the style points is like the Michigan, who's only beat one top 25 team. Same thing with Oregon. Look at how those teams are being talked about. Same thing with Washington. Now, Washington does have 3 top 25 wins against teams from the Pac-12. And I get it. Yeah, Joel Klatt has certainly, I mean, he's always been high in the Pac-12. He's kind of like the voice of the West. But what was scary was what Kirk Herbstreit said after the Washington after the Washington and Oregon State game. If you watch that, in the final closing minutes when Washington, defeated Oregon State by a score of 22-20, he was like, this team has gone through a gauntlet. Nobody's believing in this team. This is one of the best football teams in the entire country. Like, he is also high on this Washington team. I think people who watch football in general, what happens is when they see a really good offense, they think it's automatically an elite team when there's other components to the game, a strength of schedule, a really good defense, and how you've played in other games against top 25 teams that are, challenging. So I think the offense, the high potency, they love it. Oregon, this team is, in the headlines of everybody. So look, I guess maybe the best thing, if you look to the odds right here, maybe the best thing, and I just don't see a Pac-12 team getting left out, right, of this title game. I think Florida State is probably
they're guaranteed to put a Pac-12 team in.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm agreeing with that right now because look, if Washington finishes undefeated, they're in, and if Oregon beats Washington, they're in. So there's one team. Then the Big Ten has one team between Michigan and Ohio State. So there's 2. Florida State's out. So it kind of comes down to Texas and whatever happens in the SEC title game, right?
Yeah, I mean, if like I said, like 2 weeks ago on here, you have to pay attention to where people are ranked right now because this committee doesn't actually care about football. They have 2 Big Ten teams in the top 4. Okay, they are setting it up so that if one of those teams loses and everybody else loses, they'll get 2 Big Ten teams in the playoffs. For whatever reason, they want Michigan and they want Ohio State in that playoff. Don't know why, because both teams are not good. Michigan squeaked a win out over Maryland. I don't know how many people on here watch any games other than Alabama. Maryland is one of the worst teams in the nation defensively. They almost, I mean, if you were just a mediocre quarterback, you're going to have your best game against Maryland. Okay? It's worse than throwing on air. Okay? There is no such thing as a corner on Maryland, and somehow Michigan can barely put up 31 points. Just earlier that year, Ohio State was losing to Maryland in the halftime, and Ohio State at least was able to come back and put up a bunch of points. So we're acting like the Big Ten has any good teams. First off, is insane. But they're gonna try to let it. If let's say Oregon wins against Washington and they'll let Oregon in. They'll probably push Florida State out because they hate the ACC. They always have. So they'll probably push the Florida State to 5th. They're probably going to let Texas in. And if we beat Georgia, if FanDuel will make the bet, I will bet right now that they will if we beat Georgia, they will keep Georgia out of the playoffs. They will put us out of the playoffs, and they'll put both Michigan and Ohio State in, one Pac-12 and Texas. I'll guarantee it right now. I'll put $1,000 down.
That would be crazy.
If you're listening, I'll put $1,000 on it right now. That's who they let in if we beat Georgia. This is insanity what's going on in this committee.
Look, okay,
they don't know anything about power rankings or football.
Xander, look, I disagree with the fact that an SEC team gets left out, but okay, to your credit, okay.
That's because you're smart and you understand football.
No.
You need to think, I've never watched football in my life. What would I think? Because what Joe Klatt says and on the herd. What did all of the news pundits say? That's what you got to remember. The news pundits said the Pac-12 is good and the Big Ten is good. So if you thought football and you played football or you watched any football ever in your life, you got to forget about that. Try to be as stupid as possible, and that's the outcome.
And see, to your point too, what is scary about your take right there is the fact that this happened. Okay, initially when the rankings dropped, who was the number 1 team? Ohio State. Okay, they ranked
Yeah.
Ohio State over a team that had won at that point 26 games consecutively and was the 2-time defending champ, and they still went with a Big Ten team. And then on
And
the
what
other
was their argument?
Yeah.
What was their argument?
I guess that they beat
Schedule. Their schedule wasn't good.
Yeah.
Their schedule wasn't good. Oh, well, what's Alabama's schedule? Oh, the hardest in the nation.
Yeah.
And we're ranked 8th.
They don't care about the
that
strength
makes
of schedule.
sense.
Yeah.
So it's not schedule. It has nothing to do with schedule.
Yeah.
It never will have anything to do with schedule.
Crazy.
It's about what they want to get into the playoffs, and they don't care about football. Look, we need to make T-shirts that say the real champion is the SEC champion, and just be ready for the downfall of college football, because they're trying to force us to be okay with this 16-team playoff or this 12-team playoff. That's all they're doing, is being like, see, that's why we need the playoff. I guarantee you, as soon as the SEC gets left out, because we're probably, if we can beat Georgia, which, Georgia is the best team in the nation right now, rank-wise, even though I think we're better because we have a better defense. I think we have the best secondary. They're all saying Georgia's secondary is better. No, it's Alabama's. We got 2 shutdowns. We got one of the best up-and-coming safeties. I think we got the best linebacker core in the nation. We got one of the best run-stopping lines. We're the best fucking defense. Oh, man, I'm so annoyed with this. It blows my mind, man. It's really blowing my mind. I used to get annoyed with the BCS, but at least the computers knew football. Oh, man. And he got the AP poll all year ranking us in at 11th, because of this, whatever team it was, South Florida or whatever we played. Because we were, Nick Saban was doing the GOAT stuff and was trying to teach a lesson to shut up all the casual fans that were, saying, oh, we got to put in Ty Simpson, all these casual fans, we got to put in Ty Simpson. And then, we saw what happened. And then everybody shut up after that. Oh man, this is pathetic. We talking about Ohio State being number 1. Their best win was what? Notre Dame.
Yeah, I guess.
Look at Notre Dame now. We talk about all they use is this football math. They're constantly talking about football math, and then the team that they're talking about being good, Ohio State, beat Notre Dame, who has 3 losses now. They lost to Clemson, and then. The reason they're saying Florida State probably should be out because Clemson sucks. Well, Clemson beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame is the best win from Ohio State. So what are we talking about? And also, I got to say this before I go because I got to get out of here. AJ in New York, you're not a Bama fan, okay? You're not. You started watching when Nick Saban showed up, and you've been trash-talking Milroe this whole time. I'm calling you out. I'll see you in the comment section.
Xander, I appreciate you calling in, man.
Peace out, man.
All right. Roll Tide to you. That was Xander out of Maryland. It's hot. He's hot this morning. Love it. Good points, too. The committee hates the SEC. They don't like Bama. The biggest slap to the face, too, was the fact that Georgia was ranked number 2. I think that's when I got worried. But then when I knew that they would jump to number 1 when they did beat Ole Miss and Missouri, whatever that happened when they went. So good to see that. But man, the way that they've been riding these Big Ten teams, and the scary thing, these are 2 scary points. Okay, so number 1 is the fact that they have 2 Big Ten teams in there, and I get it, they're both undefeated. But the scary thing is the AD for Michigan is on the committee. He's literally on there, and I get it. He has to, he can't participate in the rankings or whatever, but he can give feedback, which is like, what? How can the Michigan AD be on there? I don't like it. Stinks. Good call from Xander. I'll take a couple more, and then I gotta get bouncing on this fine Monday. But I'll be live every day, 9 through 10 a.m. So you guys call in and we could chop it up. The next college football rankings drop on Tuesday night. And, of course, you can catch the coaches show right here at 7 p.m. on Bama Football on YouTube. 251, I appreciate you being patient. Let's do it. Hey, good morning. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with and where are you calling in from?
Hey, man, this is Robert from Mobile.
Hey, what's up, Robert? I appreciate you calling in, man. Hope you're off to a good Monday. Take it away.
Oh, hey, hold on a second. Oh, New Mexico State scored again? Wow. Okay. 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 Now,
Yo, so
back to our
so
conversation.
the thing about that game too. So the quarterback for New Mexico State was a wrestler in Albuquerque. And of course, if you guys don't know, I went to New Mexico State, graduate in 2007, lived in Las Cruces, loved it down there. It was amazing. So the cafeteria was great. So my second year there, because I went to Central College in Iowa my first year. So when I moved down to Cruces, like the cafeteria, you would go in and they served, honestly, these incredible green chili breakfast burritos for lunch, for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. So they were homemade tortillas. It was like unbelievable. I think about them all the time. I mean, that's the type of cafeteria food. But I mean, this team has never been known for nothing but basketball. And for these guys to win 9 games under Jerry Kill, I mean, I said this before yesterday. I mean, they have like 10,000, 12,000 at the football games. For them to be able to go to Auburn, and it wasn't like they won by 7 points or like some sort of a Hail Mary. They dominated Auburn. You say when Diego Pavia, the quarterback, literally picked up, after an interception, he picked up the DB from Auburn and literally body slammed him? I mean, they completely overpowered Auburn. That's the best win in the entire program history. They're 1-24 all time against the SEC. Got paid $1.8 million to go and give the L to Auburn. That's incredible. Anyways.
Yeah, that's the worst part. Is not only you get a butt whooping, but you get to pay almost $2 million for the butt whooping. At least Alabama didn't pay what a fraction of that for Louisiana Monroe, and that was a nail biter to the end. So this is far worse than Louisiana Monroe. Of course the Chattanooga game, Chattanooga had a chance, and then the opening kickoff when the game was over.
Yeah.
But they had a chance up until that point. You're right about the style points. We definitely need to keep accumulating style points. The last time Alabama beat Auburn down thoroughly in Jordan-Hare was in 2011, 42-14. When we were in a similar situation, lost the game, and needed style points to get back into the championship conversation. Same thing that needs to happen this year. We got a pathetic Auburn team that is begging for a beatdown. We're well overdue to beat them down in Jordan-Hare, and we need to keep this A train going. Alabama A train that needs to keep going. So this has to be a 42-14 style beatdown of Auburn in Jordan-Hare again this season. So we still need a style point. I think we are getting closer to with Florida State's quarterback being out. That's huge. Is he out for the season?
Yeah, I mean I'm pretty sure he's done for the year. I mean, I can look for an update real quick, but I'm pretty sure he's done. I mean, he was still in the hospital, I think, on Sunday. So, I mean, it was a very serious leg injury. I'm just looking it up. It just says lower leg injury. I don't know if there's an official, like, what it was, but yeah, I would say he's completely done for the season for sure.
I think they lose to Florida this weekend. I mean, they struggled against that against the cupcake team they had early on, and I think they lose to Florida this weekend, which opens another spot up for Alabama, or the SEC champion. It'd be the SEC champion, and of course Ohio State and Michigan will take care of themselves. I heard your previous call, and there's just zero chance any conference gets 2 teams in. I mean, the odds are just almost below zero. No conference is going to get 2 teams in. That's just not going to happen this season. And so that opens up the spot when Florida takes care of Florida State. I think that opens up the spot for the SEC champion. And we all know, the SEC championship is going to be the real championship. These nonsense commentators are getting their last minute hate in on the SEC before we become unstoppable in the playoffs with expanded playoffs. It's just ridiculous. So they're going to be they know the 2 best teams are Alabama and Georgia. They all know that. They're just refusing to tell themselves that because we'll get our last minute shots in before it opens up, and there's no way we're keeping 2 SEC teams out. And it's going to probably if the playoffs was this season, we'd have 2 SEC teams in it. Well, they probably force us to play each other in the playoffs.
Yeah, they put them on the same side of the bracket. Yeah.
So they do that to knock one of them out. But that's what they'll do. They'll eliminate the SEC. It's going to have 2 teams in the playoff. That's how in the championship game. That's what it would be this year if it would be Alabama and Georgia. because right now the lights are on for Alabama, even and for Ty Simpson, who, by the way, okay, Ty, if you're going to make that mistake, I'm glad you picked that game, and you get to show the other players not to do this. So good going there for it, Ty. Although that was a great run by Ty. That was some serious speed he showed.
Yeah,
I mean, the dude, he had some goods. You know, like the previous caller said about Miro being the obvious guy. I think it wasn't obvious, and Ty Simpson is showing why there was a debate because he has some talent, he has some skill, and like Miro, he needed time to iron it out. And I think he's going to be a great player if he stays with the Alabama program. So both quarterbacks needed to get the live ammo and to work the kinks out, and they've both done that. And she's shown why. Hey, there was a debate. People want to say it wasn't close. It was close. And Ty Simpson shown why it was close. Now, Buckner, I didn't see him Saturday. I don't know what happened to him. I guess is he transferred? I don't know.
Well, I think the writing's 1,000,000% on the wall, and you have Dylan Lonergan. So when you look to the future of the Alabama quarterback position, you have Jalen Milroe, who is going to return. I mean, he hasn't officially came out and said that, but why wouldn't he? Think about all the quarterbacks that are going into the draft right now. Jalen Milroe is nowhere near a finished product. At the end of next season, that guy is going. People are going to be begging for him, right? So he's coming back, and then you have Dylan Lonergan and Ty Simpson, and you got to think it's going to be tough for Ty Simpson to sit. I have no idea if the kid is going to be patient and sit. Now, when you look to guys in the past that sat and waited their turn at the quarterback position, Mac Jones is a perfect example, right? Well, what didn't exist at that time? NIL. Right. And the transfer portal wasn't what it was at this point in time. You're talking 2019, 2020. Think about how much the game has changed. You don't think there's a program? I mean, there's a lot of like rumors right now saying that Ty Simpson could be in an Auburn uniform next year. Who knows? I have no idea if he's going to transfer, if he wants to sit wherever. But what happens today is there's a billionaire that backs Auburn right now who owns all the logging companies here in the state of Alabama that is pretty much giving Auburn unlimited funds to get whoever they want. And why do we know this? Because they've already flipped a prospect from Georgia, DeMarcus Riddick, and they also flipped, didn't they flip another prospect too, Perry Thompson? So Auburn has enough money right now that they can do whatever they want, get whoever they want. I don't know if Ty Simpson's going to stay and sit for another year, because then you think of that next year after Jalen Milroe, he's going to have to battle with Dylan Lonergan and Julian Sain. So the quarterback battle, there's always going to be a battle at that point in time. But Ty Simpson, you got to think, it's going to be that's going to be the storyline after the SEC title game or even going into the playoffs or the bowl game or whatever, is what is Ty Simpson going to do? I think that's a major storyline. It's something that we're tracking going forward. What else you got, Robert?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I totally agree with you. It'd be great for him to, come back and do a Mac Jones, which, I mean, Auburn's still a disaster right now. But can Alabama match the NIL money of the Yellowwood guy?
That's what I'm talking about. Yes, that guy has the most money in the state of Alabama. Period. And the thing about it is, if he was able to stay, I'm with you, man. Ty Simpson's a good quarterback. I mean, the throw that he made to Kendrick Law, that was right on the money. His speed is very good. He's athletic. I mean, this guy is going to have opportunity. If he was to wait, I think he is the guy after Milroe. It's just, when is Milroe going to leave? And do you want to wait that long for 1 year? But 1 year can make all the difference in your entire life if you just are patient, right? So who knows?
A lot more money.
A lot more money.
It'd be a lot more money for him if he waits until Mac Jones, that's what we do have that going for us. Yeah, what Mac Jones did with his patience, and so maybe he can weigh the odds. Hopefully he'll come back, or we could definitely use him in the year after Milroe. But this should be. I'm looking for this to be a total beatdown of Auburn. It has to be. We do not need to let this game be close. This game should be put away at halftime. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for them to put Auburn away before halftime. Rivalry, then the voodoo dolls, forget about them. Auburn is terrible, and they need to beat them like the terrible team they are right now. All right, man. I'll let you go.
All right, man. Appreciate you, man. Thanks, Robert. I appreciate you calling in, man. Robert out of Mobile. I'll take my next call. This will be my last call right now. It's a 251. Hang tight. I'll be right with you. Bama football on YouTube. Yeah. I mean, some of these younger guys that got opportunities in this game against Chattanooga. I mean, Justice Haynes, the running back, is, he's going to be something else. I mean, he could be something else right now. You just have two running backs that are older, more mature, and, doing a good job for the Alabama Crimson Tide rushing the football. Jason, Roydell, those guys have been really good. They've been really consistent. Jam Miller has been a really good running back as well. I love the fact that those guys keep the football, whether they're popping out the tackle or right up the middle. I mean, these guys do a great job just maintaining the football and, good burst. I mean, I thought there was a lot of good runs against Chattanooga. The offensive line, I think they've allowed one sack in the last two games, didn't allow a sack against Kentucky, and then just one sack against Chattanooga. That was probably because Jalen Miller just held onto the football for too long. But to kind of see the growth of this offensive line and the storyline about Jaden Roberts has been fantastic. I mean, that guy has turned into an absolute mauler. I don't know what transformed from the beginning of the season up into the midway point, but why wasn't that guy starting, from the get-go? Because he's been one of the most improved offensive linemen. Probably the same with Caden Proctor. I mean, Caden Proctor, we've certainly seen growth from him. Overall, this offensive line does a really good job. And last week, we asked Seth McLaughlin if he is going to come back and use his extra year. He said he was unsure about that, but he could come back for another year because Alabama would need a center next year. With that said, we'll take the 251. Let's do it right now. I appreciate you being patient. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
Hey, this is Reese Ewing. I'm from Laurel, Mississippi.
Hey, what's up, man? I appreciate you calling. You say Reese?
Yep.
All right, man. What's up, man? Welcome to the show. I appreciate you.
What's up? I appreciate it. I want to start off by saying, do you think that Caleb Downs will lock down his spot at returning punts?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think you have to. I mean, at this point in time, I mean, you can't put Kool-Aid back there. Kool-Aid's doing a fine job at the corner position, but I think mentally something was going on. I mean, he just didn't have that confidence at the punt returner, and you put Caleb Downs back there, and you saw what happened. Sometimes you just have to change out a guy that just isn't cutting it. And you're at these two next games, there's no time to take off. There's no time to kind of play around. Like, every single game is the most critical game on Alabama's schedule. You need the most elite players playing at the most the highest level going forward, whether that's against Auburn, Chattanooga, Georgia, whoever it is. So 1,000,000% you got to keep Caleb Downs in there.
I agree. And I know a lot of people will look at the punt return, the 85-yard touchdown, and say that's why he should be back there. But I think the second punt that he caught, where he kind of ran through all the traffic and sort of dove to catch it, but that's the same. That ball probably bounces another 10, 15, 20 yards. That saves a lot of field position, and I think that's a big key to returning punts that sometimes goes unnoticed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Coach Saban, certainly defended Kool-Aid, as much as he could. But, I'm glad that he made the change. And look, Saban's done this in the past at different positions when a guy hasn't worked. Like, Saban's job is to win games. And it is clearly to, run the organization of the program. And I think he does, has a spot for Kool-Aid and some of these older vets on the team. But at the same point, like a fumble or something like that against Auburn, you saw, listen to me. This is so important. Alabama would have beat Kentucky 70-0 if it wasn't for that muff punt. Because what that muffed punt did, even though Alabama was already up 21-0, it completely changed the momentum. And what it was is Kentucky got life. Can you imagine in a game down the road against Auburn, against Georgia, if there's a fumbled punt, one turnover changes a game. 1,000,000%. Alabama would have beat Kentucky 75-0, whatever, if it wasn't for that muff punt.
I agree 100%. And I want to give you a scenario, and I want to see what you think about it. So, say Texas loses down the stretch, and Florida State loses down the stretch. Both of them lose.
Mm-hmm.
And Oregon beats Washington, and then the Big Ten does what we know it's going to do. And Alabama wins. That would leave you with Oregon in, Alabama in, the Big Ten champ in. Who's the other team that you think should get in if that happens?
Oh man. So Robert, our last caller, I think had a really good point. He said in his opinion, he doesn't feel that two teams from a conference get in because there's so much of a logjam. Like I like that word from Mike and Austin at the beginning of the show. I think in a scenario like that, you got to go with the Big Ten team, the winner of the SEC. I guess if Oregon is able to win, you put Oregon, and then I guess you go with Texas. I don't know. I mean, the problem that I'm having right now when I rank these teams is I'm ranking the teams and I'm kind of seeing the teams as they're playing right now. And I think the committee is saying like most deserving. So, I mean, I think Georgia, Bama, I guess Oregon, if they're able to beat Washington, and then it comes down to Texas or Georgia, in my opinion, even if Florida State finishes undefeated, or Michigan, and I think Georgia.
Right. That would leave Texas with 2 losses. They would pretty much be out. I'm thinking that would come down to Washington, Georgia. Yeah, Washington and Georgia. And is there no – if Louisville wins the championship with 1 loss, there's no way they're in?
Yeah, no, they're out. So I think, I mean, there's a scenario where it could come down to a 1-loss Georgia, a 1-loss Michigan, and a 1-loss Texas, right? For the final spot. If Alabama, let's say, wins the SEC title game, look, if you want the best team in there, then it's Georgia, plain and simple. Right. You know, Texas I don't think that they've had the back end of the season to really qualify them. I mean, look, Vegas is telling you on the board right here, the top teams. Like they're on the money, you know, and of course we have to go through a couple more games to figure out all this stuff. But as of now, Vegas is telling you Michigan, Georgia, Ohio State, Bama, and Oregon. Those are your teams, and they have eliminated clearly Florida State. They eliminated Texas because of their late season play. What I'm talking about, and they're telling you on the board right now that Oregon is going to beat Washington. So when we get to that game, the Pac-12 title game, they're going to say Oregon is the favorite in that game, even though Washington has beat Oregon. And look, if Washington is so good, then why were they the underdog on the road going against Oregon State? Right? When's the last time Bama was an underdog? They're not.
That's right.
So that's it. Anything else, Reese? Why we got you?
I think that's it. That's it. I appreciate it.
All right, man. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for calling in. Thanks, Reese. See ya. All right. That was Reese calling in from Mississippi. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's crazy. And look, Ben, I agree 100%. This stat right here on the board, very telling, because this is facts. Like, this is how Vegas has it. Vegas doesn't miss. They don't. I mean, try it. Watch Vegas. They don't miss. These are the teams. When I was looking up this stat, I was blown away by these odds right now. I appreciate you guys joining. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. I got Saban. I got the Coaches Show. I got Jalen Milroe. I got Malachi Moore. Clean audio, nice uploads, good thumbnails, right? You have your full-time job. I have mine. And I appreciate you guys being right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Coming to you from beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube. I'll catch up with you guys soon.